Welcome to the KissFAQ's Song Stories. In this series, we'll focus on the histories of some of Kiss's best and least known songs. In this episode, Let Me Go Rock and Roll, originally released on Kiss's Hotter Than Hell album in 1974. Let Me Go Rock and Roll was originally simply known by the title Baby Let Me Go, and had been performed at the group's first ever show at the Coventry on January the 30th, 1973. Baby Let Me Go had been written by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, though not together. Gene took the riff from an earlier song Paul had been working on, Where There's Smoke, There's Fire, and married it to a basic blues riff he was aware of. As he told Ken Sharp in Behind the Mask, Paul's original lyric was, "If you're going to Puerto Rico," which he quickly replaced with a lyric he wrote top to bottom while working at the Puerto Rican Interagency Council as an assistant to the director. He explained in the Kiss box set liner notes, "During a lunch break, I was sitting in front of the typewriter and started humming along with a melody and a lyric against the chord patterns, and Let Me Go Rock and Roll was quickly born. It's a very simple lyric and was designed not to get in the way of the energy of the song. Some songs demand you listen to the lyric, some songs demand you get taken away by the energy. This song clearly fits into that latter category." That job Gene took after his brief stint as a 6th grade teacher in Spanish Harlem. He was the token non-Puerto Rican employee at the agency, which was tasked with tracking usage of government funds and whether those funds were actually reaching the population intended to benefit from them. The job would provide useful access to a mimeograph and hectograph machines for Gene to duplicate band flyers, not that Kiss were performing a tremendous number of shows during 1973. But as he recalled in Kiss and Makeup, "I also used the offices after they were closed and on weekends to send out our mailers. I used the typewriter and the layout and the stencils." It would be there that he assembled the band's first promo package, which included a simple one-page bio and the band's first PR photo. Gene also recalled on the Kiss Confidential radio tapes, "We were writing. There was so much material coming in and I wrote the lyrics as a free-form lyric. That was one of the few times where the lyric was written first before the chords or whatever were written out. I came up with this riff, which is based on an old R&B lick, but that's all I had." Evidence of the song is scant prior to the Bell Sound studio sessions of late September 1973, and that demo recording was included on the Kiss box set in 2001. Fans' listening experience of the earliest currently known version of the song starts out with what sounds like a burp. Subtle lyrical and arrangement changes are present throughout the song, notably the lyric, "Baby, Rock and Roll," is originally presented as "Baby Wants to Roll." There are other minor differences throughout the song, which was clearly more about the jam, as Gene suggested earlier.
Let me go, baby.
Essentially, the older arrangement of this song does little to change the song's overall duration. However, as was often the case when performed live, the band included the instrumental jam section, which sometimes stretched the song past 4 minutes, approaching 7 minutes in duration. Compared with the other songs that made the first album, it's hardly surprising that this one wasn't chosen. While it was a fun jam live in concert, there were enough other songs with interesting melodies, lyrics, and musical passages for the producers to focus on developing in the studio. That left this song as little more than a fun live jam. Baby Let Me Go remained a show-closing musical anthem during the earliest part of the band's career. That is, if they were graced with the time and permission to perform an encore. That certainly wouldn't be the case at the Academy of Music show on New Year's Eve 1973-74, where the song was on the set list but wasn't performed. That marks the December the 22nd Coventry show as the earliest currently circulating live performance of the song. Generally, the song maintained its set closing position until superseded by Rock and Roll All Night in 1976. Midway during the first national tour, Peter started making his notable Kiss Loves You or rock and roll shout-out dedications to whatever city the band were playing, allowing him to play a further vocal role in the band's live show. It became another feature of the set later replicated by his replacements. The song was eventually given a new title, Let Me Go, Rock and Roll. Gene's lyric ledger noted that while Baby Let Me Go was the song's primary title, the rock and roll part had always been written in brackets on those lyric pages. It was officially retitled when included on the Hotter Than Hell album in 1974. At that time, it was little more than a leftover, but having been performed during the tour and during the final show of the tour before hitting the studio, it would have been well rehearsed for the session, requiring little work other than adjusting the arrangement from its live jam to a more suitable album format. As a result, the often 4-minute-plus song was cut down to its just over 2-minute core essence. There doesn't seem to have been much of an attempt to make it more than it was. Studio documentation suggests that the song was mixed on September the 2nd, though additional overdubs were recorded during a 3.5-hour session on September the 4th, making it one of the final songs completed for the album. The song was also issued as the only single in support of the album, backed with the title track. It didn't chart, and the original Blue Label Bogart release of the single is probably the rarest 7-inch single in the band's United States singles catalog. A June 30, 1975 royalty statement suggests that royalties were due on just 125 copies of the single, illustrating its rarity. Not surprisingly, the promotional stereo mono version, while still very rare, is far more attainable in terms of collector availability. Contractually, Casablanca didn't have to pay royalties on the promotional releases, contributing to their seeming abundance. Oddly, a 1976 Filmworks reissue of the single can also be found. Let Me Go Rock and Roll was one of the few songs to include any reference to its recording source on the Alive album. Gene can clearly be heard shouting, "Come on Quad City" during the song, referencing the Davenport, Iowa show, which was recorded on July the 20th, 1975 for that album. It's a fun fingerprint, seemingly deliberately left intact where so much else was corrected during the album's construction. Let Me Go Rock and Roll finally succumbed to the abundance of newer catalog songs and was dropped from the set during the summer of 1977 for the Love Gun tour. It returned in time for touring in support of the Alive 2 album, before again being dropped during the early part of the 1979 Return of Kiss tour. Eventually, it was drafted back into service as classics replaced the solo album selections in the set, but after that tour it would be ignored during the 1980s. Prior to the reunion, it was only performed once, featuring during the 1993 Foundations Forum set. A regular during the reunion, it was included on the Psycho Circus live EP released in early 1999 to promote that album on the European tour. It was also included on the originally conceived Alive 4 album finally released in 2006, and also on the Kiss Symphony Alive 4 release in 2003, though for that release it was firmly planted in the Kiss Electric section of the show. Let Me Go Rock and Roll was also generally a regular on tour throughout the 2000s, except during the 2012 tour with Motley Crue. The song returned regularly during the 2013 to 2017 period, before decreasing in frequency, except during the cruise or during Gene Simmons' solo band shows. The song was included in the set for the first year of the End of the Road tour, before being dropped in December 2019. In July 2022, the song was heard alive and well when chosen as the first digital single from the then forthcoming Off the Soundboard Live in Des Moines 1977 archival release. The song had also been included on 2 of the previous 3 releases in the series, Tokyo 2001 and Donington 1996.